Hey everyone, welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show where we give you all of the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Joining us as always is AMC's Editor-in-Chief, John Campea.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Happy Team Canada Men's Hockey starts their tournament at the Olympics today. We are so glad you decided to make us part of your day.
Also here, AMC Movie News Production Manager, Dennis Zen.
So in response to John and his Canadian hockey jersey, I'm just going to say that Jonathan Quick is going to take the Team USA to the promised land.
I'm not even sure he's going to be goalie the whole way through. I still think they're going to switch to Miller. But I'm a big Quick fan.
He's going to stonewall everyone.
Yeah, I'm a big Quick fan. All right, what do we got? What's going on today?
The new Captain America: The Winter Soldier opens in AMC theaters everywhere on April 4th, and many of you have probably noticed some changes in his outfit. According to the film's directors, those changes aren't just for style. In a recent interview, Joe Russo said the following: "We wanted to put Cap in a space where he's a special forces operative for S.H.I.E.L.D. who goes on missions around the world that are clandestine and sometimes require a certain level of anonymity or stealth. We wanted to use his super soldier outfit from the comic books as a way to represent thematically his place in the world of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the difference between working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and being Captain America. That's something that gets explored on a very concrete level in terms of what outfits are used in the film. We didn't feel like we were messing with the icon, we just felt like we were being faithful to the more recent issues of the books. The movie has a very thematic component in terms of use of costumes. John, what do you think about Russo's comments?
I really do. I like the fact that, look, I don't really care about, I'm on record, I don't really care all that much about costume changes. Oh, they used a waffle kind of texture like they do on Spider-Man and Superman's new costume? Do they go with a flat spin? I don't really care about any of that stuff. But I gotta say, it is kind of nice listening to a director like this saying, okay, we've made this visual change, talking about the costume here that we've got, we made this visible change because it's reflective of a change in the persona of who the character is. And I really like when directors are so visual that they like to give those little visual cues to those certain types of shifts and changes. Now he's not just Captain America, now he is Captain America, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. sort of thing, and they wanted that kind of represented. And I like it when directors have that type of vision. Ultimately, is the look of the costume really all that different? As long as you can still tell Spider-Man is Spider-Man, Superman is Superman, and Captain America is Captain America, I don't really care. But it is kind of cool hearing directors like this talk about details on that sort of a level. So I really like it. What do you think, Dennis?
Well, first off, I like this new costume much better than the one he wore in Avengers.
Right. A lot of people are saying that.
Because that one looked like that spandexy. It looked kind of cheesy. I mean, I still like the one that he wore in the first Captain America, his World War II outfit.
Yeah, that was great.
Also, I just started reading, he's referencing Ed Brubaker's version of Captain America about the comic book, and I just started reading that, so I don't know exactly what thematic elements that they're planning on drawing from there, but that's, I guess, where the suit changes. So I'm all for it, and he looks like Captain America. You can tell it's Captain America, so it's not that big a deal.
I agree. What's next?
With her involvement in the aforementioned Captain America: The Winter Soldier, many people have wondered how major or minor of a role Black Widow, played by Scarlett Johansson, would play in the upcoming Avengers: Age of Ultron. Well, according to a recent interview by Marvel president Kevin Feige, it's going to be a very major one. Feige said the following: "We learn more about her past and learn more about where she came from and how she became in that film. The notion of exploring that even further in her own film would be great, and we have some development work with that." Dennis, how big of a role do you think Black Widow will actually play in the next Avengers?
Well, first off, I guess they're not killing Black Widow. You and me had speculated that Black Widow or Hawkeye could die in the next one, kind of in typical Joss Whedon fashion.
Right.
Guess not. The way that it sounds is that Kevin Feige wants to make a standalone Black Widow film, so I think her role is going to be a lot bigger. I think it might even be so big that fans are going to complain about it. They're going to be like, oh, there's too much Black Widow. We want to see more Iron Man or Captain America, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about things like, are films overcrowded? To me, no. Films are not overcrowded if you have 50 characters, because every film has 50 characters. I've always said films only become overcrowded when you try to give too much story to too many characters. So you can have a film of 7 people Just 7 people, no other extras, no side characters, 7 people, and that can be overcrowded if you try to give each one of those 7 characters too much. I get a little bit concerned because we've heard Whedon say that they're going to give significant story and screen time to Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. We've heard that this is going to be a really important film for Hulk. We've heard about, it's going to be vital with Tony Stark because his role in the creation of Ultron, blah, and now we hear, oh, we're going to go into so much black. That's the part that starts to get me nervous about the overcrowding issue. Not concerned about adding new characters. I'm concerned about how much attention every single individual character gets. So that makes me a little bit nervous, not much. And I gotta say, Black Widow is not my favorite character here, and here's why. If they had, say, Black Widow, played by Scarlett Johansson, who does a great job with the character, by the way, if they had a Black Widow film that was not connected to the supernatural Marvel overall Avengers cinematic universe, like, say they just had a Black Widow movie. There's no Iron Man, there's no Captain America, there's no Hulk, there's no Thor, God of Thunder. It's just a Black Widow movie. I would love it. But there's something about Hawkeye and Black Widow as the two completely super-powered people that make them a little bit less interesting to me. But let's move on to this for a second. There are some reports going around online. I really should address this because I've had a lot of people tweeting me in the last day or so saying, John, Marvel has confirmed they're making a Black Widow movie. No, they have not. Let's be very clear here. Kevin Feige has said, oh, it'd be great to have a Black Widow standalone. He's said that about a lot of characters. He said, we've done some development on that. They've done some development on a lot of characters. Look, we may end up seeing a Black Widow standalone film, no doubt. That could happen. But don't be tricked into thinking that, oh, it's been confirmed, they're making a Black Widow. No, they haven't. Kevin Feige's just talking. Kevin Feige does a lot of talking. And I wouldn't be all that shocked if Kevin Feige's given us some misdirection and we actually do see her die in Avengers. I'm going to kind of hold on to that. Not that I want her to die. I just think that that's what they might do. But no, they have not confirmed they're making a Black Widow movie. It may happen at some point, but it hasn't happened yet. All right, folks, we've reached that part of the show for Buy and Sell. Here's how this works. In front of her house, she's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down. Then Dennis and I are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it and why Canada will win the gold medal at the Olympic hockey tournament.
It's just been announced that John Singleton, director of such films as Boys in the Hood and Too Fast, Too Furious, has just signed on to direct the upcoming film Tupac, based on the life of Tupac Shakur. John, buy or sell Singleton being selected to direct Tupac?
I really like the selection, as a matter of fact. There were a couple of other names for directors that were being floated around, and I remember all of them were pretty good. But I think it comes back to Singleton for me. I always thought he would be the right guy to take on a project like this. Yes, he did Abduction. And didn't do such a great job with Abduction. But guess what? Even Steven Spielberg has a bad day at the office now and again. Not that Singleton is a Steven Spielberg, but I really think his sensibility, his style, I think this is going to be a really good... And look, this is not an easy film to make. And the thing that I'm most curious about is, I really wonder how much of this film is going to focus on the circumstances surrounding the death of Tupac. Because, I mean, you could do an entire movie just on the life of Tupac. You could do an entire movie just on the circumstances surrounding the death of Tupac. I'm really curious to see, when Singleton starts talking about this project, where that balance is going to be, how much of each, if either, he's going to cover. So, for me, it's a buy. Singleton on this is a buy.
I buy it as well because he was friends with Tupac. He worked with him on Poetic Justice.
Yep.
And I think he's been wanting to do this for a long, long time. He originally was supposed to do it, then he dropped out. They had like Antoine Fuqua.
Yeah, which I also didn't think would have been a bad choice.
He dropped out, and now he's back. My only concern, though, is that because he was friends with Tupac, and he's currently friends with the Tupac family, is he going to sugarcoat this? Because the interesting thing about Tupac is that he was a man of, much love and much hate. Like he had a lot of, conflicting emotions in him. So if you sugarcoat it and make it all positive, that's not Tupac, you know?
And I think it becomes less interesting if they do. I think that's part of what made him such a fascinating character. I mean, we said that about Martin Luther King, right?
Yeah.
As well. There are more shadowy elements to a Martin Luther King that I think just makes him an even more rich figure, and I hope they don't gloss over that. I think you bring up an excellent point with that. Show us Tupac, the way Singleton knew him. Show that to us, because I think that makes him more rich. All right, what's next?
The 2012 comedy Think Like a Man was a surprise hit, taking in just under $100 million at the box office on a modest $12 million budget. So it's no surprise that the sequel is on its way, and the first trailer just hit the web. Think Like a Man 2 hits AMC theaters everywhere on June 20th. Dennis, buy or sell this first trailer for Think Like a Man 2?
I buy it. The first one was decent, and it had some funny moments in it. And I'm a sucker for movies that take place in Vegas. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if they're just set in Vegas, you already start me off on a good foot. So, and the trailer for this looks pretty good as well. So I buy it.
You know what? I'm one of the guys who the first Think Like a Man caught me totally by surprise. I really liked it. I actually went to watch it in theater twice. I like the first one so much. But talking about Vegas, it's funny because in the film you got Jeremy Ferrara, you got Romany. I keep forgetting Romany's last name. But they were just together a few months ago in Las Vegas, the movie, with De Niro and Michael Douglas. And now here they are together again, back for another Vegas movie. I got to admit, watching the trailer felt a little bit like a third trailer for Las Vegas, a little bit, but that's fine. I really like the first one. This one looks cute and funny. I don't know when I'm going to get tired of Kevin Hart. At some point, I'm sure it's going to happen, but it hasn't happened yet, so I'm all for seeing this. So yeah, for me, it's a buy.
The first trailer for the new film, The Single Moms Club, has hit the web. The film opens in AMC theaters everywhere on March 14th, and it follows 5 struggling single moms who put aside their differences to form a support group. They find inspiration and laughter in their new sisterhood and help each other overcome the obstacles that stand in their way. John, buy or sell the trailer for The Single Moms Club?
I got to. I'm shocked. I saw the trailer for the first time this morning. And I really liked it. I really did. It had more heart to it, I thought. I thought the laugh parts were funnier than I thought. That whole line about, yeah, I've got lots of wood and I know how to pound. I mean, I was like, okay, that's funny. I love Terry Crews in anything. Anything and everything I like Terry Crews in. So I'm not going to jump up and down and say, oh my gosh, best trailer ever. No. But my expectations were so low for this trailer when I started playing it that I was really pleasantly surprised when I watched it. So surprising, I got to give it a buy, Dennis.
I'm going to have to sell it. And first off, I have to say, I'm not the demographic for this movie, so I'm obviously just not that interested in it. But before I even saw the trailer and I just heard the title, I'm like, all I pictured was a bunch of women in a living room standing around with glasses of wine. And guess what? There's 4 shots. 4 shots of that in the trailer.
I will say this, though, that that's kind of interesting for me, is when you're looking at this film, the last time I saw Amy Smart in person, I was dancing on a stripper pole with her on the, what was it? Crank 2 set. I got to be on Crank 2 set. I got to dance on a stripper pole with her. So I'm looking forward to seeing her again. That would be great. All right, folks, listen, that'll do it for Buy or Sell. But listen, it's come that time for Mailbag. Now, before we get into Mailbag, I want to let you know that we always leave a little bit of time to take live questions from our viewers. We do this show live Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you're watching us live and you'd like to throw in some questions, here's how you get them to us. Go on to Twitter and tweet your question to us at AMC Movie News. Tweet the question to us. Don't put the questions in the chat board. We've realized the chat board is for, chatting. And it helps us keep a much easier track of the questions, too, when we do it on Twitter. And it keeps the questions a little bit shorter so we can get through more. So if you're watching us live and you want to ask some questions, tweet them to at AMC Movie News. But for now, we've got some mailbag questions pulled out. You can email us anytime, 24/7, at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Every day we pull a couple questions out of the mailbag. Ashley's got a few of them pulled out. So, Ashley, what do we got?
Rob Better writes, hey AMC Movie Talk, love the show and I watch it all the time. My question is, why do people want certain movies to suck? Let's rewind the clock a year to the time when the MOS movie was announced. People started hating it before it hit theaters, and when it came out, It was pretty good, IMHO, but people continued hating on it and refused to give it a chance. And this year, the same thing happened to RoboCop. What's wrong with those people?
This comes up a lot when you're talking about Marvel comic book characters that are not owned by Marvel Studios for the films. Whether you're talking about X-Men, whether you're talking about Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, whatever. This is something I will never understand any rational film fan would ever think. Because sometimes we hear, there's a new Fantastic Four movie coming, and I'll have some fans go, I hope it sucks, and I hope it bombs, so that it can go back to Marvel. Well, wait a minute. Why? Okay, first of all, why do you want to go back to Marvel? Well, because then it'll be good. Well, if all you're hoping for is to get a good Fantastic Four movie, why don't you just hope that this one is good? And really, seriously, think about it. There is absolutely no logic to that whole mentality. That I want it to bomb and be bad. I want it to be terrible so it goes to somewhere where it can be good. Well, if you just want it to be good, then cheer for it to be good. Why would any film fan, I've never understood this, walk into a movie not expecting it to be bad, because that's natural, but why would you ever walk into a movie hoping for it to be bad? Why would you want 2 hours of your life wasted? Look, I go into lots of movies that I expect to be terrible or expect to be poor or whatever, but I always hope it'll be good because that's what film fans do. You should hope that they're good. Anyway, Dennis, how do you see this whole thing?
For me, it's an example of that extreme fanboyism that you get, that either it's kind of predetermined whether someone's going to love or hate a movie, and it's based on whatever feelings they have towards the franchise. So they'll immediately go into something like, I have a friend on Facebook. For RoboCop, he was talking about how he was going to see RoboCop tonight, and he just wrote all these, like, I know it's going to suck, He wrote a big list of things, and then, of course, after the movie, he comes back, I was right, it totally sucked. He already hated the movie before he saw it, and I think a lot of people are like that. And sometimes it goes the opposite way. They'll love something no matter what.
I was like that with The Phantom Menace at first. I stuck my head in the sand as a Star Wars fan and said, no, I loved it. It was awesome. And then after seeing it about 12 times, realizing I'm so lying to myself. That movie was so bad. But I mean, look, one of the things I love doing as a film fan, I love it when I think a movie's going to suck. I mean, how many times have you guys heard me say, man, I thought this movie was going to be awful, and I really liked it. And that's one of my favorite experiences. I love it when it's one thing to think a movie is going to be bad. Just don't judge it before you see it. Have a guess as to whether you think it will or won't be bad, but then keep an open mind when you go into the movie and judge it on its own merits. Don't judge it on the news that came out. Look, right now, Man of Steel 2 looks a little bit like a hot mess. But I still think it's going to be good. But despite all the problems that I've had with the news about Man of Steel 2 and certain casting decisions they've made with Man of Steel 2, despite all of that, when I go into Man of Steel 2, my fingers, my toes, everything on me is going to be crossed, hoping for an awesome, excellent, fun time at the movies. And if it's good, then I'm going to come out and say, I was worried for nothing. It was awesome. Or I'm going to come out saying, it wasn't very good. Well, one of the two, but we should always, don't stick your head in the sand. Don't be blind. Have an opinion if you think something looks good or looks bad, but just be open-minded enough to judge the movie on its own merits once you see it. And I think that's important. All right, what's next?
Desmond Harris writes, hello, Movie Talk. Question 1, what is the vetting process for smaller budget or independent movies to get released nation and worldwide? 2, what's the approximate percentage for marketing costs for a movie in relation to budget?
Well, starting with question 1 about what's the vetting process, really any movie can get a worldwide distribution. Any movie. Dennis and I and Ashley, we can walk out of here with a GoPro cam and film a movie called the AMC Trio Go to Buy Chicken McNuggets. And that's the movie. And it's 90 minutes of us walking to McDonald's, chatting, getting some McNuggets, dipping them in some delicious, I don't know, honey mustard sauce or whatever, and eating them and roll credits. That movie can get a wide release if whoever owns the distribution rights to them wants to put it worldwide. If they want to pay the money and do everything that it's going to take to put the movie worldwide, it can go wide. So really, the process per se is, first of all, a distributor wanting the film, and then believing that the film that they have can get an audience if they do a wide release with it. And that's figuring how much marketing they've got to put into it and all the stuff that entails. It's really up to them. There's no rules. There's no Hollywood rule that says it has to meet this criteria. It's completely up to the distributor on what they want to do. Now, as far as marketing budget in relation to the production budget, they're not connected at all. A studio or a distributor that wants to wide release a film, let's say Think Like a Man, the company that had Think Like a Man. They've decided they're going to put it worldwide. It doesn't matter what the production budget on that movie was. They're just concerned about what do we have to do in a marketing campaign to get as many people to see this movie as possible. How much do we think we have to spend to hit that number? And if it's 20 million, it's 20 million. If it's 50 million, it's 50 million. Roughly speaking, that's usually where wide release marketing campaigns usually fall in, is in that $20 to $50 million window. But it really, for the most part, the production budget isn't that big of a factor when it comes to the distribution. So, and there are exceptions, obviously, there are exceptions. Dennis?
Yeah, I think I read this, the average movie marketing budget is about $40 million, right, around there. And I think with the production budget, it does factor in. There's just no rule for it. It factors in the way of, okay, if we spent this much on it, how much, are we willing to spend to market it? Yeah. Because if it's a $5 million movie, they're not going to spend $100 million to market it.
Unless they feel that $100 million, or let's say 50, let's be more realistic. If a company feels, if a distribution, let's say a 20th Century Fox, believe they have a movie, costs $5 million to make, but they believe with their market research that if we put $50 million into marketing this film, it will make $300 million worldwide. Whereas we believe if we spent 20 million on it, it would only make 100 million worldwide. Like in those rare situations, I could see that happening, but I think generally you're right. All right, folks, listen, we've got a few minutes left here in the show, so we're going to throw it open to the live viewers right now. Once again, if you're watching us live, you can tweet in a question to us right now at AMC Movie News. Our gatekeeper today is Ashley. She's deciding which questions get on air right now. So Ashley, what do we got in the Twitter stream?
Flint Cole writes, do you think it is annoying when actors are in too many recent movies? I get annoyed when I see Sam Jackson show up everywhere.
It's funny, we were just kind of talking about Kevin Hart. Because this will be the third, this Think Like a Man 2 will be the third starring role this year, and it's only February, for Kevin Hart. It can, only if they're playing the same kind of character over and over again. And that's why I said in the thing, at some point I'm going to get tired of Kevin Hart. I ain't there yet. Right now I'm still really entertained by Kevin Hart in movies. But if he keeps doing lots of movies and he's always the same guy, at some point I'm probably going to get bored and annoyed with that. Now, on the flip side of that, you can get a Liam Neeson to be in 5 movies in 1 year. And, as long as he's playing different types of characters, they can all be badass characters. But when you look at things like Taken or what was the one where he's fighting the wolves again? Gray, whatever. He's a badass in both, but they're two very different badasses. Then I can watch him in 5, 6, 7 movies in a year. It really depends on the performer and how diverse those roles are to me. And then you get a guy like Daniel Day-Lewis who does like 1 movie every 3 years and wins the Academy Award. If that, yeah. He likes cobbling his shoes, anyway.
It's less annoying for me and just more funny. I just look at it and go, oh, look, he's in this many movies or she's in this many movies. What I don't like, though, is the people who start hating on actors or actresses because they're in too many movies, or they get too popular. Like there's like a backlash on Anne Hathaway. There's a backlash starting with Jennifer Lawrence, and I just find it very frustrating. It's like you don't like them because they're in too many movies and they're getting too popular.
So basically, you don't like them because they're good.
Yeah.
Because they're good enough to keep getting roles and blah, blah, blah.
I hate that mentality.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
Billy Costa writes, favorite dark comedy? Mine is The Cable Guy.
Favorite dark comedy? Oh, gosh, now I got to think about that. What in my head would be considered a dark comedy? You know what? I can't think of it off the top of my head. I'd have to make a list. Can you think of something off the top of your head?
I don't know if it's my favorite, but the one that comes to mind is Scorsese's King of Comedy with Robert De Niro. It's pretty hilarious, but also dark. I mean, even Wolf of Wall Street I consider kind of a dark comedy. So, like, Peter Berg, I think, this isn't one of my favorites, but this is an example of a dark comedy. Peter Berg did that movie, what was it? It was set in Vegas where they accidentally kill a stripper.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And I think it isn't Christian Slater in that one?
Yeah, and Jeremy Piven.
Yeah,
oh,
I can't remember the name of it, though.
That's not my favorite. I'm just saying that's an example.
That's an example of dark. Yeah, I'd have to make a list. I can't
Yeah.
think of it off the top of my head. All right, what's next?
Jonathan Rivera writes, what casting choices have you disagreed with but actually was a good choice?
Wow, casting decisions I disagreed with. I at first, as much as I'm not a fan of the original two Fantastic Four movies, I didn't like the Chris Evans casting as Johnny Storm at first. But I got to tell you that's one of the things I actually thought was pretty okay about the Fantastic Four movies was Chris Evans as both of those. And then oddly enough, I was really completely pro Chris Evans being cast as Captain America. Some other ones that I really didn't like that I ended up liking. I don't know. Let me think on that for a second. What about you, Dennis?
For me, speaking of Anne Hathaway, was even though I really love Anne Hathaway, Catwoman.
I hated that casting at first.
I was like, oh man, that's. Even though I love her, I was like, she doesn't seem like Catwoman. Then she killed it, and she was probably one of my favorite parts of the entire movie.
Which is a great example of, okay, just don't underestimate talent, because I didn't see Anne Hathaway as a fit for Catwoman. I'll totally admit that. I won't change history. I did not like it at first, and you're right. I think she ended up being like one of the best parts about that entire film, and I'm sure it happens a lot.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
I love this idea. Rashad H. writes, do you think Angelina Jolie will ever be in a Marvel or DC movie? I think she would be a great Catwoman in the Batman reboot.
It depends on how soon they do it. Like Angelina Jolie right now, she's really caught in the filmmaking bug. She really likes making films now as opposed to just acting in them. You know what? No, I don't think we'll ever see her in a Marvel or a DC universe. What do you think?
I think there's a slight possibility, but yeah, she's more interested in directing and activism, and the type of stories that she wants to tell or be in don't seem to be mainstream right now, at least for the moment. Maybe she'll change her mind later down.
Yeah, now some people might say she's too old for it, but she's only, I think she just turned 40. If not, she might even just be 39. So she's got some comic book viable years left in her. I just don't know. All right, what's next?
Tarek writes, I heard there was going to be a Scream TV show. What do you guys think would be better, a Scream TV series or a Scream 5?
I don't like to address TV questions much at all. And I don't think we're going to see a Scream 5. I think there was some talk about it, but I think it got derailed, unless you've heard something different.
No, but I didn't really like the last Scream movie.
I didn't like any of them after the first one.
Oh, really? I liked the first, second, and third one. But the fourth one was the latest one, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't care for it, and I don't think it did very well.
Yeah, no, it didn't. There's not a demand for it.
So I don't see either one happening.
Right. All right, what's next?
Cody writes, AMC, is Texas Chainsaw 4, oddly named, still moving ahead?
I haven't heard anything. I remember there was some talk about it a while ago, and they said they wanted to do it. But off the top of my head, I have not heard anything else about any progress on it whatsoever. I don't know that it's been shelved, but as far as I know, there's been no progress. I could be wrong about that. If you know something different, write in the chat board. Dennis, have you heard anything different?
No, I haven't. I don't really follow horror too much.
What's next?
Colby writes, will there be a remake of Titanic in the future, and do you think that we will see any movies set on the Titanic?
Yeah, we will at some point in the future. I mean, Titanic is it's not just a huge blockbuster movie. It's a real historical event. And those movies tend to get remade anyway. And, you know, it's the biggest blockbuster of all time. At some point in the future, just don't hold your breath. You know, don't expect one within the next 10 years or so. But eventually, at some point down the road, there's going to be another Titanic movie, unless you think otherwise.
Second biggest blockbuster of all time, next to Avatar.
Did Avatar pass it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I knew they were 1 and 2, but
yeah, James Cameron just can't hit lightning twice.
You know what the funny thing is about those two? Only one of them, when you figure in inflation, only one of those two movies are even in the top 10 all time.
Compared to like Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind, Star Wars, things like that. But yeah, for just pure dollar value, they're 1 and 2.
I don't see them remaking it anytime soon.
No.
Probably like 20 years.
Maybe
from now.
20, yeah. All right, what's next?
Raymond writes, with the launch of comic book movies in recent years, do you think we will see a live-action Sailor Moon film?
Oh yeah, we talked about it the other day, actually. I have heard there is some talking about a Sailor film. Don't run with anything. John Campy of AMC says there's a Sailor Moon movie coming. No. But I know there are some people talking about it. I would not be surprised, because now it's old enough. Here's the neat thing about Sailor Moon, all right? Sailor Moon is kind of where, right now, where the first Transformers movie was. It's at an age where it's in a real sweet spot, where it's not so old that there aren't still followers of it, but it's just old enough that for a lot of people, it's a nostalgia thing. And like the first Transformers movie, I think came in that exact sweet spot where it still had some fans, but there are fans who are like in my age bracket who was an amazing, wonderful nostalgia factor all at the same time, and it was able to capitalize on both. I think Sailor Moon may be in that demographic. If I had to put money on it, I'd say no, we're not going to see a live-action Sailor Moon. But I wouldn't put a lot of money on that, because I do think the possibility exists.
I don't think we're going to see it because it's no longer in its peak. And then with the nostalgia thing, I think that type of property, especially like for women, it's different. You know, men, we like to cling on to like our old childhood stuff, especially stuff like Transformers and G.I. Joe and whatnot. Girls, they kind of cling on to, I see a lot of my friends from college, they still are into like NSYNC and Backstreet, but you know what I mean? They cling on to that type of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Sex in the City. I don't know if Sailor Moon is one of those things that they really cling on to.
You know that one scene for those of you who have seen the Lego movie, there's that one scene where Emmett says to Vitruvius, he says, but, you know, it's not going to explode if I do it, right? And then there's just awkward silence, and then Vitruvius is like, sure, yeah, whatever. Talking about NSYNC, whatever, it's like, Anne is a total Justin Timberlake freak. She's got a newspaper picture of her with Justin Timberlake back in the NSYNC days, and she's still a massive fan of him now. She's gone to like 3 of his concerts in the last little while. I'm like, it's totally cool you love Justin Timberlake, but you wouldn't leave him for me, right? Sure, yeah, let's go with that.
My ex-girlfriend, who is also Filipino, is also obsessed with Justin Timberlake.
There's a thing.
And when remember after the, I think 2008 election, you and me, and I think Ryan McGuffey, we went to that
the
one
woods.
bar.
We went to the woods right by my
Justin
place.
Justin Timberlake and Jessica Biel
were there.
I texted my ex-girlfriend, and she freaked out.
Yeah.
She freaked out. Just the fact that I was in the same vicinity.
All right, they love Justin Timberlake. Yeah. I know you do too, Ashley. Don't lie. You do too.
No, I actually was a Lance Bass fan, and now considering the information that we have now about Lance Bass, I'm kind of embarrassed. But Gareth Lewis writes, question, what effect will the new marketing laws have on a post-credit scenes?
If by marketing laws you're referring to the new standards that NATO, not the military defense organization, but the National Association of Theater Owners, NATO, they've put out some new guideline rules about trailers. Trailers can't be more than 2 minutes long. They can't start playing in a theater more than 6 months before the movie opens, things like that. But these are guidelines for NATO theaters. These aren't laws. All right, and every studio is allowed to have 2 exceptions every year. So two of, say, Warner Brothers can have 2 movies a year that they can have a longer than a 2-minute trailer, and they can start putting in theaters more than 6 months in advance. But this doesn't affect anything about online. Nothing. This is only in theater. So if Warner Brothers wants to put together a 7-minute trailer for the new Batman that opens in 4 years, and they want to start putting that online now, they can. If they want to bring a 25-minute clip of a new movie that's opening up next year, like 15 months from now, and they want to bring a 30-minute clip to Comic-Con, they can. These new guidelines are only about stuff that is in theater. They have no bearing whatsoever on online or stuff they play at functions like Comic-Con. Have you heard anything different?
No. Did he say something about post-credits as well?
Oh, yeah, and post-credit scenes. It has no effect. Yeah. No effect on post-credit scenes because that's part of the movie itself. Yeah. So, no effect. All right, let's take 2 more.
Okay. Oliver Queen writes, do you think that we'll see a Prometheus sequel?
I honestly, I don't think so. I did not. I'm one of the guys who I'll come right out and say it. At first, I was like, oh, no, it's not bad, but I've watched it 2 or 3 times now. Prometheus is a bad film. It's not a good film. And it was so wildly inconsistent and so many plot holes and so many whatever. It's just not a good film. The people did not respond to it great. It didn't quite do the financial numbers they were kind of hoping it would do. They've talked about doing another one. Then they lost the writer. Then, you know, this happened. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think we have a better chance of seeing another Aliens movie before we see a Prometheus sequel. That's just my feeling. I think this guy has a slightly different opinion than I do. So what do you think?
I like the first Prometheus. If they make a sequel, yes, it did have flaws in it. I think down the line we will. I think down the line Ridley Scott will revisit it.
If anybody's going to let Ridley Scott, because he's not on a good roll right now.
Not with the counselor.
Not with the counselor. All right, last question.
Jonathan Rivera writes, AMC, what's happening? Can you?
Is that the question? Not much.
That's half of it.
Gonna go watch some hockey a little bit. Okay, sorry. I'll let you continue.
Can you ever see any potential Batman villain spin-off solo films?
We've talked about this before. No, not unless they're gonna go the dark hero route. Like if they're gonna make Bane turn into like an anti-hero or something like that, and I don't see them doing that. So no, I don't.
Let's get their heroes right first.
Yeah, let's start with stage one.
Let's start with the heroes. Let's start with JLA. I mean, we don't need to get so far ahead of ourselves, especially with Warner Brothers and DC. They're taking super baby steps. So super villains, no.
All right. Okay, folks, that'll do it for us. We've run out of time. Thanks so much for joining us. Listen, lots of great movies playing at AMC Theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. Don't forget, today is the last day. You can also vote on our recent Versus episode where we debated whether or not Jesse Eisenberg was the right choice to play Lex Luthor. I argued on the against, even though I'm really not all that against it. John Schnepp argued for the for, even though he's not all that much for it. But we went passionately at it. So don't forget, this is your last day to vote. Hey, listen, if you want an audio-only version of this episode, look in the description of this video, and you'll find links to our Stitcher and our iTunes, so you can listen to us on the way to work. And also, don't forget, if you haven't done so already, click subscribe. Become a subscriber to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. I want to thank, first of all, the one and the only Mr. Dennis Zen. Dennis, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero and on YouTube, ThinkHeroPro.
Our lovely host today, Miss Ashley Mova. Ashley, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Ashley Mova. And Sync, I love you!
And you can find me on the various social media networks at John Campy. New Kids on the Block, I love you! All right, thanks a lot for joining us, guys. My name's John Campy, and until next time, bye-bye.
If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to AMC Movie News on YouTube. It's free and a great way to stay updated with all the latest movie news and check out our daily show, AMC Movie Talk. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter to stay in the loop for our special prizes, giveaways, and contests.